I've done some psychedelics in my life, including magical mushrooms, LSD, aka acid, and DMT. And I don't recommend doing any of them, but if you want to expand your mind, it's a very introspective endeavor. And it's not the worst thing in the world. There are worse things like heroin. But prepare to never be the same again. I honestly recommend doing mushrooms before any other psychedelics because it's a lighter version of acid and DMT. DMT is the strongest hallucinogen known to man, and acid is a man made substance. So, those kind of are a bigger trip in a more expansive way. Mushrooms will have you crying, laughing, feeling emotions that you never thought were possible, looking at light as a saving grace, a totally new aspect to life, those sorts of things. Acid will change your perception of reality completely, and it can be scary because you're losing touch with reality. That's pretty intense. Doing these psychedelics affected my mentality later in life by making me very paranoid. I used to react on outbursts of energy by running away from my home, and it landed me in a lot of trouble. I was almost homeless once. And I do things like trust people when they shouldn't be trusted. I went to the Wakarusa Festival, and when we got there, the dude wanted me to hand him my money so he could hold on to it, and he ended up stealing all my money. And I didn't even get a wristband into the show. I had to be snuck in. And even when I got there, I couldn't leave the campsite because I didn't have a wristband. So I didn't get to go to the stage or see any of the music, and it was pretty pointless. But the reason that I trusted so easily was because these psychedelics make the world appear so much more beautiful and interesting. It engages all your sensibilities into a whole new world. I don't recommend it to weak minded people because it can be kind of scarring to your mentality if you're not careful. And even if you start out with the lighter version of psychedelics, aka magical mushrooms, it doesn't mean that you're going to be ready for acid or DMT because they're just so much higher on the realm of changing the perception of reality to something totally new. But DMT only lasts 5 minutes. Acid, LSD lasts about 8 hours to 16 hours. And magical mushrooms last about 5 hours to 8 hours. I also developed anxiety because nothing could intrigue me more than the trips that I've been on, and I was starting to look at life like a dull place. The world wasn't as colorful or indulging after that point. And anxiety can come from spending so much time doing things that you feel are useless to getting you to a higher realm. Everything around you seems frivolous to even get involved with because it doesn't lift you up to the stature of mind gazing and new experiences. My anxiety rose from the inability to get deeply involved with the world around me in the same capability that the psychedelics enlightened me to feel. I always felt like I was wasting my time because I didn't really want to do psychedelics anymore because I didn't want to trip so hard or get into a bad trip and have no way to resurface in beautiful thoughts. I had tried it once already or twice for each psychedelic, and there really wasn't anything that could affect me as much as that. So life started to feel dull. And I stopped being grateful for simple things like having a roof over my head and a family that cares about me. It all seemed useless. Sometimes I feel like parts of me didn't return from the trips. Like I'm still submerged in my mind, somewhere distant from reality. But the manifestations of the world around me on psychedelics were definitely a treasure to behold. Psychedelics are definitely a mindgasm, but not everyone will be able to handle it. If if I wasn't prepared for a whole new thing developing in my mind past any recollection of sanity, and if I didn't do research on the topics of psychedelics before I took the doses, I feel that I would have not responded as well as I did. And another thing is, I don't remember any parts of my trip. I remember some parts, but nothing too big, and I know it definitely changed me, so it's hard to say that it's in any reality that I can decipher what I experienced, that is. It took me to a whole nother level, and there's no way to remember how intensely different everything was. So if you think you'll have trippy thoughts lasting a lifetime after you trip, you probably won't. Just because everything that you experience is so illogically portrayed as something entirely wild and doesn't really coincide with any nature induced probability of sane thoughts. It's totally off the graph. It's totally off the grid. I wouldn't say I went insane, but I definitely questioned everything after that. Like, what is real? Why am I feeling these emotions? Will this trip change me for life? Because when you're amidst the trip, it seems like nothing will ever be the same because it lasts so long and it's a mind-altering substance. But I wouldn't trade my trips for the world because they were all good trips. I never had a bad trip. But I did experience some dark moments that scared me, but it wasn't too bad. So for everyone that wants to try psychedelics, make sure you're around people that you trust, because things will get intense. Your mind will be changed, and you'll experience something totally new, and it'll be exciting. For all those trippers out there who have already tripped, please tell me in the comments what your trips were like. I would definitely like to hear about them, because then it'll joggle your memory of the trip and you'll have those memories in comment form on this post. And hopefully it'll generate feelings of bliss, exchanging information with me about our trips. I'll tell you a few details about my trips. One time I took 2 hits of acid with my boyfriend, who was a drug dealer. Well, he was like a middleman. He would get things for people that needed it, and we happened to have weed one night when we were tripping, and my friend needed to buy some weed, so he hit me up and came to my house, and I gave him the weed. He gave me the money, and then he was on his way. And as I was heading out the car, everything behind me, everything behind my gaze was being sucked into a dark black hole. And it seemed like the black hole was gonna swallow me too, but it didn't, and I made it to my house. And we were watching my brother that night, and all I remember is like him pissing off my boyfriend because of how annoying he was or something, and me just laughing the whole time. It must have been pretty funny watching my brother while I was tripping, but I wouldn't recommend having little kids around you while you're tripping, because you could do something really weird or just act weird or, you know, be generally weird around a little kid. But I, at the point, had to watch my brother every single night after school until my dad got home, so it was only a matter of time before I did something fun while I was watching him. And then in another trip on magical mushrooms, me and Brooke, my best friend at the time, ate our mushrooms, and then we just stood in my room laughing and crying, feeling ultimately like we had a connection that would last forever because of sheer happiness. And I know the magical mushroom enhanced my feelings for that occasion. Our friendship was really strong, so we were totally comfortable around each other, and I think that made the trip better too. And I remember lights being so illuminating when we walked down the street. The street lights seemed like they were so bright. And on the night I was watching my brother when I took acid doses with my boyfriend, we were playing a card game, and that's when I started tripping. Like the drugs had just kicked in, and the numbers and the letters, like on kings and queens and aces and jacks, and all the numbers were like being pixelated into a geological form. There's definitely some sort of prism work done in LSD, because everything forms within and without each other, on top of each other, but kind of revolved around some sort of basis. And I think that is like a trip controller, so that it doesn't exasperate and exaggerate past the point of recognition of anything. Like it has to revolve around major points in reality so that it doesn't space out too incredibly much. Because I was really trying to figure out the workings around acid that time that I took it, because it was so interesting that when I took it with Harold, I was still in tune with reality. Like I could still see and hear things, but it was just so trippy. Like it was a conundrum of groovy and inspirational moments that just generated off of truth. And I think that takes real skill to develop a drug like that. On my first trip with my friend from school, Harold, he was the first person I ever spoke up to about wanting to try LSD. And he had the connect for it. So yeah, he had the hookup. And I was surprised because LSD started off in the 60s, made by Albert Hofmann, Yeah, I really did my studying. And I thought 40 to 50 years from that point, because this was in the 2000s, that it would be difficult to find. But I guess anything is possible, because he got the jelly tabs, and we got like 6 of them or something, and we planned on taking 3 each throughout the night. But then my dad's girlfriend Tara wanted to trip with us, so we all ended up taking 2 each, and Tara was holding on to them. That's my dad's girlfriend. And when we asked her for 2 hits each more after we took our first hit each, she didn't want to give it to us. She thought we were tripping too hard, but that must have been how she felt, because she was a little older than us. And she said that she had done it before, but with her weak reaction to 1 hit, I don't exactly believe that. She's told me lies before, like that my dad does crack, and that my mom bit off her leg, when I know damn well she hit my mom in the mouth so hard that my mom's face broke. She broke her whole mouth. And she tried saying that her mouth got broken when she bit her leg off. But I know that was a lie, because I heard my mom say, "You broke my mouth," when they were fighting outside. And watching your mom and your dad's girlfriend fight is the worst thing ever, let me just tell you. Because you get to know them both equally as strong females, willing to be in your life as an inspiration and an idol. And they don't exactly add up to that. It's more like hell on earth. But anyway, so she ended up giving us half a hit each, and that's when I think my trip really started getting good, because splitting a hit in half is like taking from 1 hit, and the 1 hit is a complete dose. So when we took half a hit each, I think our trips were spiraling off of one another. And I think that's the point that I felt like I could really love Harold forever, because he was so funny and bright and confident, and it really substituted a good nature feeling for all the doubt that I was hoping wouldn't arouse a bad trip. And we went in the car and we drove to the store and we started doing donuts in the parking lot. Then we came back to my house or his house or some place we stopped at, and we watched the snowflakes crystallize on the car window in the front seat. And it was truly mesmerizing and magical. Like, every second that passed, you could see the crystallization forming, and it made us very perceptive of the love and enjoyment that we felt. And I can't imagine having a funner trip with anyone else. I just wanted to tell you guys a little bit about psychedelics and tripping in case you were thinking about doing it. It can be a true pleasure, but just make sure you're not doing it with any idiots or mean people or losers, because you're going to want to feel your best the whole time so that it doesn't turn into a bad trip. And bad trips happen way too often. I used to hear about a bad trip all the time, and I've experienced so much from doing psychedelics that I never thought was possible, being ordinary or normal beforehand. So make sure, if you do it, that it's a powerful excursion that brings you to greater heights, and never stop seeking or feeling like you have what it takes to be remarkable. And hopefully that'll power you during your trip to have fun. Okay, I'm signing off. Bye.